Great. So I'm Colette, and we're going to start our restorative practice by setting up our props. So if you have blankets or towels, you can kind of fold them into a square-like shape like this. And then you'll take your blanket from that shape and we're going to fold it in half lengthwise. So you'll end up making a nice folded rectangle. You'll do that with both of your blankets or towels. And be sure to smooth out any wrinkles so it's nice and flat. We're gonna move in our body just to loosen things up before we get into some longer holds, but just so you have kind of a parameter of what we're working with. Our holds, our restorative postures will be anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes. So this is really an opportunity for you to be with what is, to be in your body, to be with stillness. So that being said, if you have a playlist you want to put on, some soft music, or just be in a quiet space, we're going to get started with a little bit of gentle movement by starting at our hands and our knees. So coming into a tabletop pose, you'll want to align your knees under your hips and your wrists under your shoulders. Make sure your fingers are spread out well. And then close your eyes or cast your gaze downward and just start to move your body intuitively. Try not to overthink it, but just listen to your body. What needs to stretch? What needs to wiggle around? What's calling out to you? And as you start to take on various shapes, and you start to notice movement in different places, how does your breath match this movement? Can you become a little more aware of the ways that your breath inspires the shifting of the shapes? That your breath infuses the fullness of the shapes that you take on. Can you feel that relationship of breath and movement? We'll play moving around 5 more breaths. Any little wiggles that are feeling really nice and opening for your body in this moment in time. We're going to set up our first restorative posture. So you'll take your 2 blankets that you have in the rectangle, stacked one on the other. You want to stack the fringed sides together and the folded sides together. You're going to bring the folded side of your mat facing towards your side body. And your blankets are running in a horizontal line across your mat from the long edge to the long edge. We're going to move the right side body onto the blankets. So you're sitting with your right hip flush with your blanket stack and your knees are stacked, or your knees might be like a little bit of a staircase. You're going to drape your right side over your blankets, supporting your head with your bottom right arm. You can play with where your knees are. Maybe you need to bring the left knee, the top knee down or forward a bit. You can decide if 2 blankets is just feeling way too much. That's a lot of flexion for your side body. You can move a blanket out of the way and simply work with one. If you're feeling this is not feeling good for my neck, you can take one of your blocks, your hardback book, and put that underneath the right side of your head so you have a little shelf or a little support for your skull to rest on. That'll mean your right arm will be resting in between your blanket and your block. In this side lying pose, take your left arm overhead And just simply let your left arm rest on your ear. You could also pull on your left wrist with your right hand. Listen to your left shoulder. If that is feeling like it's a little tender, it's feeling a little too sticky, you can simply let your left arm rest in front of your belly instead. Closing your eyes here. I'm just starting to arrive with more curiosity into your physical body. Where do you notice the feel of your bottom hip making contact with the earth? Do you need to pull the hips back a little bit to soften the side waist onto the blanket stack? Take these first few moments to maybe simply adjust. Just little tiny adjustments here and there that feel right to you. And as you find the place in the side lying stretch where you would like to be still, where you'd like to be quiet in the body, take a nice big breath there. And as you breathe out an open mouth, maybe a sighing sound comes out and you feel yourself just settle in more fully to the shape. As we begin to hold these postures longer with more awareness, it's okay for your thoughts to arise. The thoughts are part of the makeup of our mind. It's okay to think. You may decide a thought is worth following for these first few breaths. You may decide to mentally put the pause button on that thought and reorient your focus back into what you're noticing in your physical body. Are you feeling the props? Are you feeling the ground? Notice too the temperature of the air around you. We'll take about 5 more breaths on this side. And we all have a different pace for breathing. So when you feel you've gotten to the bottom of 5 breaths for you, just let your top hand release back in front of the belly. You can push your top hand downward and turn to face the stacked blankets and hands and knees. You can push your hand down to help you lift up. As you move into your tabletop pose, again, you're welcome to follow your own body's guidance. This is our little neutralizing spot. What movements might feel nice after stretching your side. We'll set it up to take it on the second side. So this time it'll be your left hip sitting in line in front of your stacked blankets. Again, your knees can be stacked or stair-stepped. Drape your left side right around the waistline, so right around the side waist and the bottom left ribs or on the blankets. You can use the same height, same stack of the blankets on this side that you used on the first side. So if you removed one, you'll just keep it out for this side too. You can put a block underneath your ear or have your left bicep be a pillow. And your right arm can reach over your head, resting on top of the skull. Maybe pull on your right wrist, your right forearm to encourage more stretching at the shoulder. Remember, this first part of entering the pose, you don't need to get stuck anywhere. So find some gentle movements as needed where you feel like you can get into a place that feels pretty good, pretty cushiony, relaxing. Place where you're feeling held. As you move into the side, you can start to bring your attention now a little more closely onto the breath. Maybe feeling the feedback of the blankets underneath you as you breathe, and the ribs expand from the lungs expanding. Maybe you notice the breath fanning the right side of the body up and open like a rainbow, lifting towards the ceiling. Maybe you feel the front of the heart space opening a little more. Can you even breathe with a little more expanse across your back body? Allowing the breath to broaden the back rib cage, the space between your shoulder blades. Using your breath to expand from the inside out. If your mind has moved out of the experience at hand, you can once again pay attention to the feel of the breath pressing against your ribs. Feel of the breath moving down the throat, back up and out through your nostrils. 5 more breaths. You all breathe in a different rate, but when you feel ready, you can let your right hand rest in front of you. We're going to come out to a seat facing away from the blankets. You can press your right hand down and just turn back to your blankets as you come up to a seat. Reorienting, just kind of checking in and feeling for the space in the spine, the side body. We're going to move into a heart opener using the support of these blankets, but grab a hold of your bolster, your pillow. This is going to go underneath the back of the knees so that as you support your legs on a pillow, rolled up blanket, something nearby, that'll allow the hips to sink more fully onto the mat. With your backs of your knees supported by your pillow, you're going to use this same setup of the blankets. Blankets are going to go underneath the shoulder blades, so you're welcome to watch me first before you set up. We don't want to have the blankets in the middle of the small of the back, nor are we keeping the shoulders on the blankets. The heads of the shoulders are actually going to fall behind the blanket stack. And if you find, I can't get my head to the floor that way, you can put your block underneath the back of the skull. You can also decide 2 blankets is too much, it's creating a lot for my neck. You can take one of the blankets out so that it's 1 blanket, again, under the back of the heart between the shoulder blades. So as you're ready, you can lay back over your stack. If it's comfortable for you to have your head on the floor, by all means, feel free to let the weight of the head rest on the floor. Give you a little more opening in the throat chakra and the heart chakra, but if that's too much for your neck, then support the back of the skull with a block, with a book. Again, we're not needing to get stuck anywhere, so if you've got to adjust the bolster under the knees, widen the feet, you can. Maybe you shift your hips a little bit. You're going to feel the heads of the shoulders, the deltoids, rolling down behind your blanket stack. This will allow the front of the shoulders and the pectoral muscles to open, the chest to open a little bit more, and the arms to relax towards the earth so that the arm bones can sink and be heavy on the floor. As you find your shape, feel the breath moving through the front body. Maybe even imagining a rippling wave of the breath rolling over this wave-like shape in your body. Just being aware of your rolling breath in through the nose. And the ebbing of the breath out as it exhales through the nose. And this gentle, natural exchange of breath to breath. And with the front body open, it's not uncommon to perhaps feel a little anxious, to maybe feel a little fluttery in the heart center. If it's starting to create an energizing kind of experience, see if you can shift your attention to where you can ground. So the heels, the backs of the feet touching the ground. Feeling a weightedness of your thighs on your bolster. Relaxing your hips and your sacrum, the back of the thighs towards the ground. Leaning into the support of the blankets with the back of the heart, the shoulder blades. Feeling a heaviness in the back of the skull, the shoulders, elbows, all the way down to the backs of your hands. Anytime you find you might get a little fluttery, reground your awareness, your attention, once again to the earth beneath you. You can feel a softening in the muscles of the face, a heaviness as your eyes sit deep into the base of the sockets. The muscles in your face soften. Your jaw and your tongue relax. And take another 5 breaths into the heart, into the front body. That breath will be different for each of us. But as you feel finished, just bring one knee up in towards the chest. Either knee, you can clasp your hands in front of the shin, just pulling your thigh bone up against the side of the belly. And we'll switch out our legs. Just bring your leg in towards you. We'll roll on the right side. And use your top hand once again to press the floor down. Just simply coming up to pause once more in a comfortable seat. And you feel different sensations in the front and the back body. Maybe a pulsation in one area, tingling. And softly opening up your eyes. You can move your blankets off the mat for a moment. Just off to the side. We'll set up our bolster like a little ramp. So grabbing your block or your book, that'll be for underneath the head of the bolster. And the bolster is going to come down towards you like a ramp. And you'll be able to play with adjusting the height on this as you set up into it. Take one of your blankets, your towels, and just unfold it so that you're back in this nice big square. That square blanket's just going to go right in front of your bolster ramp. We're once again going to sit with the knees in kind of a little stair stack, and you might choose to put your second blanket between your knees just as a little extra padding. Your right hip is against the short edge, the bottom of the ramp. You're going to turn to the bolster. Start with your hands on either side of the bolster and push into your hands to steer your belly button, squaring off your chest with the bolster ramp. Lift the heart center up a bit. Find a little more height for another breath. And then maintaining as much length in your upper body as you can, drape your belly and the center of the heart down on the bolster. Crawl your elbows forward so that your elbows and forearms can rest on the floor. You can have your right ear on the bolster. It's going to be a little sweeter to your neck. If it's feeling good, you want to get more into that twist through your cervical spine, you're welcome to. You can rest your left ear down on the bolster. That's up to you. If you're feeling the bolster is really far away, you can adjust the height of your books, your blocks, to bring the bolster up closer. You may also decide, I'm going to take the book out. I'm going to let the bolster rest fully on the floor and use that. As you arrive, what do you notice happening in the body? Are there movements that you could make just to allow yourself to be a little more relaxed, a little softer? Can you allow maybe the left shoulder to wrap down a little more towards the bolster? That may mean moving your right shoulder just a little to the right so that you get more squared off, more belly center down. How does that open up your breathing, your space for breathing? The mind may activate as our body starts to relax and get still. Again, thinking is nothing we need to try to control, to stop. When our mind is in movement, as it often is, we can employ the witness mind, an ability to watch the thoughts. It's like we're standing and watching clouds shapeshift, or we're watching leaves on a stream. We're watching the thoughts move from one to the next without needing to grab on or manipulate. Breathe in and out through your nose. 5 breaths. Your palms pressing down into the floor. Push your hands down. We'll turn around, just facing away from the bolster. You're welcome to sit cross-legged, stretch the legs long, sit comfortably. What do you notice? What subtle or very obvious differences between your left side and your right side? We'll move to take the second side of this twist, left hip at the edge of your bolster. With your hands on the ground, you can use this as a means to steer the belly, the heart towards the bolster. Keeping space open in the side waist, lay down your upper body. Maybe turn your head to the same direction as the knees, to the right, or opposite for more rotation in the neck to the left. Again, space out the elbows or walk your elbows forward so that they're able to rest on the earth. They feel heavy and supported by the ground. You might draw the left shoulder out a little to the left to let the right shoulder, the right side of the chest, drop into your bolster more fully. Maybe you started to follow a thought down a path, and that's okay. Acknowledge where you've taken your attention. Once again, check in with your physical body in this twist. The flow of your breathing. Just watching curiously too, any emotions that you notice you're experiencing. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel in this moment. And where you are, just breathe with the feedback of the bolster underneath you. A little bit of a bigger breath through the nose, a little more energizing. Once again, press your palms down. Push the earth down, lifting yourself up off the bolster. And we'll turn once more with your back to the bolster ramp. Use this bolster ramp and just sit up close with your sacrum, the back of the pelvis, at the edge of your bolster. You can bring the soles of your feet together, letting your knees butterfly out. Take your other blanket, towel, and unfold it so it's in a nice big rectangle. You're going to roll from the long side inward to create a nice, skinny, long blanket roll like a snake. This long blanket roll is going to come around the front of your feet, right over the tops of the feet, the ankles. And then you can wedge it underneath the outer edges of the knees. A little extra cushioning for your outer knees to have some support with your legs in this butterfly shape. Your bottom is still sitting on the ground, but you're going to take your sacrum up nice and close to your bolster. Lay yourself back, and you can let your arms either rest at your side, palms up. You might also place your hands right at that crease of your thighs and your pelvis. You might place your hands on your belly. I'm going to find a place where the arms are relaxed. So if it feels like there's any efforting, choose a different position. And check in, is the spine aligned? Can you align the crown of your head with your tailbone, maybe even very slightly? Take your chin down towards the throat so that your chin isn't jutting up, the throat isn't very open. And keeping equal distance, equal space open for the front and the back of the neck. You may need to walk the shoulder blades in a little bit. Again, finding that space where stillness feels maintainable, closing your eyes there. Being with your breathing. Being with the emotions that you're experiencing. Being witness to the thoughts that you're having. And staying as still as possible, this butterfly shape. Breathe some spacious breaths into the belly, diaphragmatic breaths, just elongating and deepening your breathing. Feeling the energy, the blood flow moving in the belly center, promoting digestion and immunity, bringing blood flow into the belly organs. You can take your hands outside the thighs, outside your knees, and gently encourage the legs to close together like a book. You may choose to take your Shavasana like this with the bolster still behind you. Your legs can extend out long, and you can take your blanket roll behind the back of the knees. You can also take your body to the side, rolling to the right off of your bolster to take the bolster out for Shavasana. If you're choosing to move the bolster out, you can take that behind the backs of your knees. You're welcome to take a folded blanket underneath the back of the skull, like a little pillow. A blanket over the top of your body. Moving into this connection with the earth, legs out on the earth. Maybe there's the support of something under the knees, hips connecting to the ground, your back body supported by something. Maintaining that inward gaze with your eyes closed. Just breathe. begin to notice the sounds of the space around you. And begin to notice the feel of your breath becoming bigger and more expansive. Begin to wiggle your fingers, your toes, little movements, little gentle stretches. Encircle your wrists, your ankles out. And take one knee up in towards your chest, holding onto your shin, just pulling your thigh in towards your belly. You can switch your leg. And then just bend both knees, let the soles of your feet touch the mat, or maybe rest on your bolster, and just let the knees fall side to side like a little windshield wiper set. Rocking the knees back and forth from the right to the left. Let your knees finally rest either on the left or the right, either side, and roll to that side. Roll to lie on your side body. Take your time to move into a seat and put something underneath your hips to elevate your seat, whether it's your blanket still or you want to sit on your bolster. And taking this space just to be aware. How does the body feel here? What were you able to shed? And what were you able to connect with? How does that leave an imprint for you emotionally? How does that affect your breathing? And bringing your hands up to Ouseley-Moynan at your heart. Palms pressing together, you can let your thumb tips touch gently to the heart center. Knowing that this is the beginning of your practice off of the mat. Maybe setting your intention for how you can move mindfully from this time on your mat into the rest of your evening and into your week, where you might bring in this stillness, where you might offer yourself more moments of pause and reflection and quiet. So that you have the opportunity to align with your highest self, moving from a centered space through all that you do and say, through all your interactions. And with your palms at your heart center, we'll take another round of breath through the nose. Deep inhale. And open mouth, let the breath go. In deep gratitude to each of you for sharing time, for sharing energy, for sharing your practice. The light in me sees the light in you. Namaste. Thank you all for sharing a little bit of your evening and being in this snuggly practice. I hope that you are feeling